Good morning. My name is Rochelle Etienne, and I will be your facilitator for today's virtual class, Preparing Students for College and Careers by Building Knowledge and Vocabulary Using EBRI Strategies. Today, we are going to begin with videos and activities that you all will be working on independently. This recording will guide you through all of the learning and give you opportunities to pause to complete activities that we will then discuss in the virtual classroom at 11 o'clock. I look forward to meeting you live and in person during that time. When we are together, we'll extend our learning by practicing some specific EBRI classroom strategies. We'll work on activities together, we'll role play a few things, and give you an opportunity to experience how it is to model and guide students through these strategies. And then we'll end our session today with an opportunity for you to ask questions and to plan next steps for the learning that will continue over the following weeks. So just to orient us one more time, you're going to hear on the recorded session what we've already talked about, a little welcome and introduction from myself and the orientation to the day. You're going to work through independently yourself. You're going to work through understanding the rationale for a focus on vocabulary and knowledge in college and career-ready classrooms. And you are going to work independently to review some resources on immigration and citizenship as an example of the classroom resources that exemplify EBRI strategies for building vocabulary and knowledge. And then finally, the live classroom experience later on this morning will engage in selecting text and resources and talk about what kinds of text and resources you can use in your room, how to incorporate EBRI strategies into instruction, where the opportunities are for formative assessment with EBRI strategies. You're going to have a chance to explore some really interesting classroom-ready resources for you to think about using in your classroom over the next few weeks. And then we'll talk about next steps for our office hours and for the remainder of the course. This just summarizes some of the goals for today's session. There are a lot of goals beginning today, but also extending over the next few weeks. We're going to really look very closely at vocabulary knowledge, as I mentioned. You're going to be able to access a wide variety of instructional materials that are going to help engage learners and build vocabulary and knowledge building in your classroom. You're going to have the opportunity to design a text set and think about how you want to implement that instructional material in your classroom over the next few weeks. And we'll have lots of opportunities as a group to discuss strategies and think about how effective our instruction is over the coming weeks as well. When we meet together at 11 o'clock, I'll also want to ask you about what your own goals are for this session. What do you hope to come away with after our learning experience? So be prepared to share that when we meet in the virtual classroom later on this morning. This portion now will begin the work of listening to some of the knowledge and learning and content building that we'll be doing over the next hour and a half or so. Be prepared to pause the video in some places where I will cue you to complete an activity or answer a question. It will help to guide your learning as you move through the recording this morning, but we're also going to bring those ideas back and they will be part of the virtual classroom activities when we meet later on this morning. So you'll be really careful and it will serve you well to take advantage of those opportunities to pause the video and complete the task, because they are a necessary part of the course and participation in the course. So the key advances in college and career readiness are some of the biggest ideas that kind of surround these new college and career readiness standards that have been implemented across multiple states in the nation. The big ideas for English language arts and literacy, college and career readiness begins with the idea of giving students an opportunity to engage with complex text. For the first time ever, there are actual expectations for the level of text our students are supposed to be reading at the various levels, both in adult basic education and secondary. This notion of complex text and paying attention to texts that are at the level of college and career readiness and making sure that all students, regardless of reading ability, have access to those texts is a real hallmark of college and career readiness. You might be wondering, some of you right now, you might be thinking about a particular student in your classroom who may be reading slightly below level. And you may be thinking to yourself, well, how on earth will I get students to engage with complex texts when they will struggle with just decoding words on the page? There are many ways to give students access to complex text, including paired reading, reading aloud, building some knowledge in students before they read the text to help access vocabulary and necessary knowledge. And we're going to talk about some of those strategies as we work through today. But just know that it doesn't matter how we do it. What matters is that every student, regardless of their reading level, has access to the kinds of texts that we know are necessary for college and careers. The types of text students will be facing in their community college experiences, the types of text students face in their job applications and job experiences and training protocols. It really matters to make sure that we're giving students access to the texts that they need in order to apply those in their college and career experiences. The second big advance in college and career readiness for English language arts is a focus on evidence. You may have noticed the change around evidence, particularly when you look at the equivalency exams students are expected to take, both on the HiSET, and we've also seen questions and tasks that are more focused on evidence on the new GED exam now that is being provided in the country. And the idea here is that students will be reading complex text and that the questions and tasks and discussions that they are expected to have about those texts rely on them being able to access key information, pull evidence from those texts to promote learning and to promote conversation and to support good writing habits. So writing tasks that require evidence from text, speaking tasks that require evidence from text, is another big hallmark of the college and career readiness standards. And then finally, if you notice, this last key advance is in green. It's the building knowledge advance. And the whole idea here is that the point of reading good text, the idea of engaging with evidence, is all a means to an end. And that end is the ability for students to build knowledge, the knowledge necessary for success in their college experiences, and the knowledge necessary in order for students to be successful in their careers. And I believe in many ways, the promise of the college and career readiness standards is the opportunity for all students to use literacy skills to build knowledge about the world, about themselves, about each other, and about the very things that matter to them and their families and their livelihood. Building knowledge is such a wonderful opportunity, I think, for adult educators, instructors like ourselves, because the world is our oyster. I've seen amazing knowledge building college and career readiness activities in a range of settings in adult education. I've seen life skills classes focused on helping young mothers develop the skills they need to navigate housing and medical decisions for their families, building the knowledge they need to be good moms and good parents and good citizens. I've seen amazing apprenticeship programs where students are in an apprenticeship program for plumbing, for example, and have engaged in some really rich reading and experiences to build the very knowledge that they need to be experts in their trade and their craft. I've seen GED prep classes that have students engaging in incredible knowledge building activities around history and science and civics in order not only just to prepare them for an exam, but to also open their mind to the types of experiences they may be facing when they get to college. So this idea of building knowledge, I think, is the real opportunity in adult education and provides the most opportunity for students who are college and career ready. These key advances are going to be the principles that kind of guide us through the types of materials that we see across the course of today's course. So if you are always thinking, where do students get the opportunity to engage with complex text? When will students have the opportunity to focus on evidence? What knowledge is being built? I think you will see that all of the practices that we talk about today are directly designed to address these key advances in college and career readiness. So I'm going to take a stop here and go down the road of research. Please don't worry, your eyes might be rolling right now. We're not going to go through and talk about each and every one of these studies, but there is something to be said here about what these studies tell us. Essentially, if you're looking at the screen, over the last 2 decades in this country, a tremendous amount of research has been done around the achievement gap and the literacy rates that we're seeing in the country around K-12 students, and how the challenges with literacy begin a very long time before many of us ever meet our students in the adult education context. If you notice here, all of these statistics have to do with students who are in first grade and third grade. And I mean, that's a good 10 years before we meet any of our youngest students, even in adult education. And so how is this problem so pervasive in K-12? And what are the opportunities we have in adult education to really address gaps that have existed for students for nearly their entire educational careers? How is it that tests so early can predict so many results years later? What is happening in K-12 schools that might be perpetuating these trends? What is not happening in K-12 schools that might be perpetuating these trends? But most importantly, what can we do to support these adults who are now ready to face the world? How can we help adults reach their goals for college and careers? I'm going to invite you now to just pause your video for 5 minutes and move to the discussion board in the Blackboard platform. You'll notice in the discussion board that there will be a space provided for you to answer these questions. And I'll ask that you take 5 minutes now to pause the video, go to the discussion board, and please share your thoughts on any one or all of these questions.